Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, my plan had been to get this going for 10:30. My time, it is now 10 to 11. Yes, I've had a few challenges this morning. But there again, that's what this sort of stuff is all about. Looking at challenges and facing them. I mean, one of the challenges I have found lately is sort of people coming up to me on my market stall and saying, "Do you know anywhere where they do a craft group? Or do you know somebody that will um, lead a craft group for me on there? Or do you know somebody you know who will help us with this?" And I'm thinking, I could do that myself, but there's only one of me. So I came up with a plan. And my plan was to encourage other people to become craft group leaders. Simple, really, isn't it? But I'll tell you my story of how I got involved with that in the first place. You see, there was one day I walked into the church I went to, and I had this crazy thought as I walked in through the door. There needs to be a craft group here. So I had a word with a couple of people on the ones, after the service, and said, "Well, look, this." Then they said, "Oh," and they sort of said, "Oh, yeah, we'll think." No, yeah, that's not a bad idea on there. Well, that was the summer. It gets to the first Sunday in Advent, and I start talking to somebody in the after the service, and we talk, we talk, and we talk. In fact, we were talking so much about about sort of our dreams and visions. We decided that we better let everybody else go home and have our lunch and meet again a couple of days later, which we did. I went round to her house and we had an even longer chat. And at that point, we decided it might be a good idea to invite the then minister in on the idea. Well, he came up with what, in retrospect, was very much a God inspired idea of setting up a craft group. It wasn't what we intended doing. We felt a little bit railroaded into this, and it wasn't really what we were thinking about, but it was a good place to start in the end. So we got started with this craft group, and 4 years later, we were saying goodbye to people who had become our friends because we could no longer get together because the government said that getting together with other people was a way that was likely to kill some people because of the virus that it was spread around, and that we would be a lot better off staying in our own homes and staying in our own places and not mixing with people. Okay, government says it, so that's what we'll do. And that little craft group collapsed. But you see, the thing is, that crowd, we had the most, I'm not sure whether you'd call it amazing or crazy or wonderful or fantastic, or even in Welsh, it might be called bendigedig craft group, in the sense that we'd never seen anything quite like it. And you'll see that picture shows some of the things that we made. But what you can't see from that picture, and that I will deliberately do not have any photographs of, are the people who attended that craft group. Because these were vulnerable people, and from the point of view of safeguarding, it was just completely inappropriate to take photographs of them. But they were like I say, we said we'll start with people with learning disabilities. And we opened the door said, put some posters up, opened the door, and said, "Okay, come on in. We've got this idea. Come on in and join us." And people said, not sure about this. This seems a bit odd, a bit strange, not quite what we were thinking about." And we didn't catch any attention. We then had on the, I think, I'm not quite remember whether it was the second or the third time we opened the doors and gathered in the church. I think it probably must have been, it certainly wasn't the first. Now, probably the second, maybe. I can't really remember now. But we turned it into a prayer meeting. There was a minister, my friend, who I'll call Grace, and myself, and the three of us had a prayer meeting, and it went along the lines of, right, we're doing this because you want us to do this. God, you better bring some people in, or else this idea is going to fall flat on its face. Well, we weren't. Well, that's what we meant. We didn't quite phrase it in such uh, disrespectful terms, I suppose you'd call it, but that's pretty much what we were saying. And a couple of days later, somebody rang the phone number on the poster and said, "Oh, would it be all right if we brought somebody with us that's in a wheelchair? Can you go with a wheelchair?" I said yes. And two ladies we'd never met before came through the door. One in a wheelchair, and the other one supporting her. The lady in the wheelchair had limited use of her hands. She had a great big infectious smile that showed some of the gaps in her teeth. But she wasn't able to talk very well. And we'd got an activity. God alone knows how we managed to come up with an activity that was suitable for this. We really don't know quite how that happened. In fact, I was using things that for an activity that I'd prepared for a group with people with mental health issues, probably 4 or 5 years earlier, and that I'd brought along because they were already there, and I'd already prepared them, and it was an easy, it was something that I'd done before, knew how to do, and on there, and we got going with it. We came up with the most crazy picture. Have you ever ever sent somebody home with a picture that's reversible? What we did what I call stained glass pictures, and the picture it's basically we cut out got a stencil, drew around the stencil, and then cut out the gaps in the stencil of what they were doing. So if you look at that picture on the I haven't got a picture of anything like it at the on there at the moment, but what we did is had some card that was already cut out. It was some with roses and lions and monkeys and all sorts of things actually, and you put coloured paper, like wrapping paper even, behind the picture, behind the card that you cut out, and it makes it could make quite a pretty picture. Well, this particular lady had chosen paper that you could see that was pretty on both sides. I don't know, it was sort of like a holographic paper that sort of had a pattern on one side and a pattern on the other side somehow. And and because it was both reversible, it was one color on one side and one color on the other side, and both of them looked pretty. So she put a cutout card on one on either side, and That's when we realized we needed to learn to be flexible and go with the flow, because we'd never seen anybody do anything quite like that before. We let the lady in the wheelchair was actually making the decision, so we were going with the flow and doing what she wanted to do, even though we thought it was curious, something we'd never seen before. But that turned out to be part of the flavour of the group. As there, it was a sort of starters you mean to go on. Well, that support worker came back and said, and went back to the place where she worked, and said, "Oh, I took so and so to this place, and they were ever so nice with her. Um, I think so and so would like him." So and so came, and we grew into quite a nice size little. We grew into quite a group. It doesn't sound a lot when you say you've got six. We usually had six or possibly eight people in the group. But when you think that they were profoundly disabled people, they had learning disabilities. They all came with at least one carer. Occasionally some came with two. So that's double the number of people in the room anyway. And we were running around supporting everybody. I mean, there were times when we ended up supporting the supporters rather than supporting the people doing the crafts. That's another story. That's another dimension of what we were doing, which part of what made it so amazing. And I ended up a bit like a grandma. You know the thing about the grandma who takes the photographs and sees what the kids are doing on there in the group. And these were some of the third photographs I took of the things that people had made. On the top, what's it? The top left hand side as I'm looking for it. Yes, that is a pot snail. And it's a pot snail that's actually got a hole in its back so you can put a tiny flower pot in it. On there, and we brought those shapes in and they painted them on there. The picture below it is a keyring. Again, we bought that in as a kit, and if you look at that closely, you will see that the color it is like a piece of wood with holes in it. And the idea is you use sort of a thread to decorate, stitch through the holes and embroider the piece of wood. In the middle, that sign that says love, that's quite a curious one, in the sense that that is literally just another piece of wood, this time shaped to there. And the colouring on there, when you look at it closely, what they've done is they've got a red felt tip pen and just drawn lines upon it, lines on it, so that it goes from side to side. So the line, I don't know whether you can see the grain very easily on the sides of your picture, but it looks like loads of uneven lines going side to side from the L to the E, um, which then creates quite an interesting wood grain effect. Actually, it looks good. It looks quite good close to, and it creates a wood grain effect. And to be honest, it's ever so easy, because all you need is someone to put the hold a pen, and you could even do it hand over hand with a pen, and you just draw the lines on there. You leave a more able person to tie that round, and say, that's simple, ever so simple. Um, the top left is a card, literally just pieces of paper and stickers cut on the card, and more able the supporter has written on that's sort of about it being something from the bottom words are Mother's Day. On Mother's Day, I think it's something like Happy Mother's Day. I can't remember exactly on there. I can't for the screen. I can see. I can't see it on the screen either on there. But that just gives you a flavour. We used a die cutting machine and some stickers, and they literally just cut the pieces. We very often provided one of our popular activities was to provide pieces like pieces of paper or pieces of foam or sort of like the stickers you get on sheets that there, so that we had some wild animals and space people and all that sort of thing you get on the stickers and the children in the cheap children's stationery stores, and we would get those. And the cut and stick activities were quite an obvious one. On there, we had a die cutting machine, so we could make as many different shapes, which I think is where that big purple flower shape comes from. The four smaller purple shapes are from memory. I believe they're foam stickers on there, and we just it was very simple idea. And that glass there again, that is just an ordinary glass with things things stuck onto it on there. We also did some things like some simple got some special pens and used those to draw on mugs and glasses as well. And I mean that's just things that we did. 5 things that we did. Oh, I'm trying to think over running that for 4 years, um, nearly to the day actually. Um, from when the first person came to when we closed the doors with COVID. So it was near enough 4 years. So we'd probably say as we ran during school holidays, we sorry, during school term times, and we're off during the holidays. We probably did at least 120 weeks with different activities, and we rarely did exactly the same thing did the same thing twice. That's 120 different activities we came came up with to do with people who you wouldn't necessarily expect to be able to do anything. Of course, like you do with a primary school teacher knows that they do a lot of the preparation to make it easy for the kids, and it was it's that kind of situation. So the kids think they've done it, but the teacher's done all the cutting out and there and made sure they've got the glue, and the kids think they've done it because they've made the choices and they've finished it off, but the teacher's done most of the preparation work, and brought things in and got things prepared for the craft session. It's rather like that, and that is one experience at sort of one extreme. You see, I'd also done things, like I mentioned before, I'd also done things with done some craft activities in a support group for people with um, mental health issues on there. And that was simply a case of doing things that were that I suppose the way I'd phrase it is dignified enough for adults, but simple enough for children. Because some of the people who came to that group, there were, or let's just say, not all of them were, not all of them were capable of doing A levels or going to university. Um, they, they, they were not your intellectuals. They were not um, your normal I don't like. Put it like this: they were not the academics, intellectuals, and they were ordinary people who were facing challenges, and because they were facing challenges, they were a bit slow doing the uptake on things sometimes. So you had to take things slowly and steadily for them, and we did that. Now that's my background. That's what I've done. But then I went on to do the things on the market stall, and people started asking me, "Well, what are you going? We need somebody to run a craft group for us. Help!" Um, and that's one reason why I'm doing this, because if we can actually get something off the ground that does with relatively little experience. I mean, I hadn't spent a lot of time around people that were profoundly disabled like that. It was just a case of people were people, and you love them, and that's who you are. Love was at the heart of everything that we did on there, and it was a case of respecting them, that's respecting their needs, and doing what they working with them, and respecting them. We came up with a whole. We actually ended up teaching ourselves how to do this on there, and yeah, it's one of those strange things. That's how we got started. Now, the thing that I would like to be able to do on there is to encourage more people to have a go doing craft groups for themselves. Yeah, which is why I'm doing that. So if that's something that you are thinking about, and you would be interested in serving your local community by doing a craft group, tune in again tomorrow, because I've got some more ideas about what to do with craft groups, and how you can use craft groups to help your local community. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Bye.